Great architecture is like art, priceless to those it touches, for whom it moves. Here at the agency, we're privileged to represent some of the most iconic and important architectural homes. Here at 17269 Oakview, which is also known as the Strimling House, this is a prime example of great architecture. I brought in my colleague and founder and CEO of the agency, Billy Rose, who is renowned as having previously headed up an architectural division at a previous brokerage, and his dedication and appreciation for fine architecture. And Billy, thank you so much. Really, I think the first question, just to kind of get started, is what is it about in your experience that touches people with these kind of iconic and acclaimed architectural homes?
Great architecture can really enhance one's life, and I think people don't really recognize the impact that it can have on you. You know, great light, volumes that have a human scale, flow that makes sense, materials that are tactile and that make you feel, that have a soul and make you feel warm, I think really have an impact on life. And you know, we speak of feng shui. Feng shui is embedded in great architecture because there's a clutter in your mind that comes along with not such good architecture. And you know, while certainly you'll generally speaking get great architecture from, you know, the pantheon of the greats, Ray Kappe being one of them, you can see great architecture from a myriad of different architect designers. And you know, it's just great to be in those spaces.
What about this house, and knowing Kappe and knowing he built this in 1964, which was just at the beginning of when he was doing his own house in the Palisades, and really a prolific and renowned time period for him. What about this house kind of was striking to you?
Well, I think you have to understand sort of Kappe's history and you know, his progression. You know, he started up in the Bay Area actually, designing homes for Eichler, who, as you probably know, was a renowned developer who ultimately developed a ton of homes in Palm Springs, Palm Desert. He was influenced by sort of the earliest mid-century modernists, Neutra, Koenig, Schindler, Thicket. You can see the post and beam architecture here, which gives you these soaring ceilings, gives you these broad expanses of glass.
Kind of creates like a treehouse effect.
You've got the slate floors. They're very natural tactile materials. And then, you know, you look at for example, the cabinetry in the kitchen and elsewhere throughout other parts of the house.
Cool little hinges.
Well, you got those signature 60s little disappearing hinges that are, you know, quite signature and indicative of that era. But you've got the exposed wood that brings, again, the warmth and the soul in the house.
So we've started to kind of walk through this house, and it definitely has a hip, cool factor. And one of the things that I'm struck by is just the dichotomy between the 1964 post and beam, and this is a trophy house by a trophy architect. So there's a certain owner of that kind of trophy that wants it unvarnished, a purist. And then the other thing is that you want it to be a house where the heat works and, you know, all the modern conveniences. And I think this house captures that. So this feels like it's got a timeless sensibility to it, which is, to me is emblematic of the best of architecture, that it doesn't matter what era it is, it still resonates for a certain kind of buyer, a certain kind of lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, you've got the two components of design and architecture. Kappe was very involved with both.
I'm curious, like cork floors.
Cork floors?
It's very much of this era.
Very common.
Like, are they good? I mean, I just don't know. I mean,
I actually think cork floors are amazing because they're soft to the touch.
Right.
You know, they feel great on your feet. They're quiet.
Right.
They don't get hot. If something gets ruined with one of them, you can pick one up and reinstall. So, I mean, cork I think is an underutilized material that we should see more of today. But I think that, you know, going back to your question of, you know, do you maintain what it is or do you make it kind of today? There are certainly those who are purists and, you know, you can't change a thing, and, you know, that was an electric cooktop and that was a tiny little oven, and to me, look, it's your home. So it's a machine for living.
Right. I like that. It's a machine for living.
Now this house is quite unique in that, you know, you mentioned it's, you know, this is like a trophy. And it is, because the scale on it is quite unusual for a home of this era.
Right, it's like 4,000 square feet, which is much bigger than a lot of the 18 to 2,500 square foot homes. And then of course what I find so interesting is all the outdoor space.
Right.
Just makes it really feel, there's no shortage of space. I don't think you suffer against any of the new construction of the day. And it's a very comfortable 4,000 square feet. It kind of accommodates a pretty wide range of lifestyles.
Yeah, and I think there's a soul and an organic quality that doesn't feel like the slickness of some of the contemporary homes today. This is my preference. I'd much rather, I much more resonate with a modern house than I do a contemporary home. I love great contemporary homes too, but there's something about hearkening back to another time, you know, more simpler, gentler, peaceful.
But it's still got the formal dining room, it's got a breakfast nook, it's got an outdoor dining area, it's got sort of a home office Zoom room. The secondary bedrooms are next to the primary suite. Like, it kind of just still works. And I think one of the things, again, as somebody who's not too sophisticated or an aficionado of this, is that you feel the sure hand of a thoughtful builder.
But, you know, Kappe, he's a legend. I mean, not only, you know, was he building great homes in the 60s.
He gave a lot back to his craft.
Created, you know, one of the premier architectural institutions in the world, and you know, moved on to, you know, still creating architecture in his 90s.
Yeah.
You know, he only passed recently, as you know.
He came to visit here.
I'm glad he got a chance to come see it again. You know, Kappe is a great architect. That brings a premium because of the great architecture. I think, you know, if you get a great restored Kappe, or you're going to restore it, and you know, what I like about this one is that it's still Kappe.
So for instance, like these sliders, right? These are definitely not 2020 sliders.
Right.
So would it contravene sort of the architect's thing if you put in like a Fleetwood there?
To me, putting in a sliding glass door that retains the essence of the quality of the era. Maybe Fleetwood is that, maybe it's not. There's other type of, you know, sliding glass doors as well. But I think it's really about, you know, keeping that ephemeral quality of what makes the house tick. I'm not that, you know, rigid where you can't make changes. I think it just has to really retain the essence of what it is.
Well, I think this house clearly has all, as they say, the bones. And I think there's definitely a vibe and a feel. And I think it is. It's here for somebody to kind of be the next in line of that stewardship. So super appreciative that you kind of stopped by and imparted some of your insight and your wisdom. It's always valuable for us. And so glad you got a chance to see this house. And
it was a treat for me, honestly. I'm hoping I bring the buyer, because I've got a couple
right on
in mind. And this is, honestly, I think this is a great version of Kappe, a great version of mid-century modern, and I think the package overall, with the oversized lot, the really formidable, impressive approach, and you know, all of that nature out there, with an opportunity to kind of polish it up and make it your own, makes this something a lot of people are going to really
very
want.
special.
Yeah,
cool. Billy Rose, thank you, brother.
Great to see you.
Right on.